Capital City. This is a tableau building game that combines mechanics of bidding and auction with the drafting of cards, which is an interesting combo. We don't see that very often. Thematically, here we're trying to build cities in the Old West. Each player will collect passengers that belong from to different clans that will come to town from a train, and they will become your colonists. They will affiliate with you, and also each player is trying to build buildings and to use those colonists to make the buildings work, to activate the buildings, to earn different types of rewards. The game lasts 4 seasons, and each season has a card. At the beginning of the game, you stack these cards in the correct order, and each card will tell you how many trains you have for that season and how many buildings are available. So in spring we have 1 train and then 2 more buildings than the number of players. Buildings are drawn from this deck here. And again, we place a number face up available for the players to purchase later in the turn. We'll see in a minute when that happens. Each card tells you the cost in dollars that you have to pay to acquire that building and place it in your play area. Also on top you see 1 or 2 symbols that you need to provide to activate the building. So if I place here a card that completes the symbol, which is a heart, then the laundry will earn me $5 each time that I activate it. Some buildings have 2 symbols, so here if I place 2 cards adjacent to this half symbol to complete those symbols, so when I activate the building will give me either $4 or 2 victory points. When there are 2 rewards, you have to choose which one you want. And dollars and victory point tokens are represented by these components, which are really neat. They really look nice. They're thick, nice components. So this is for the buildings. The colonists that will come out of the train, they're represented by these cards. They're coded by color and by the last name that identifies the clan that they belong to. So here, for example, we have the green, which also is indicated as the Haslip, I mean. And then we have the Walcott and the Carey and so on and so forth. Many of these are animals that are indigenous to America, such as the eagle, as there's a puma, so different. The Minotaur, typical American fauna. So you have these animals here, anthropomorphic colonists that also have here the symbols that you will need to complete the symbols on the cards and to activate. Click your buildings. At the beginning of each turn, a number of these colonists becomes available. They're coming into town with the train. So you draw a number of cards here and you place them in a row face down so the players can see the back, so they know which clan they belong to, but they don't know what exactly they do, which pretty much means they don't know what symbol is there. This is somewhat important. But before we can acquire colonists, before we can buy buildings, and before we can build stuff, we need to decide the order of priority. There is a number of priority cards that will be equal to the number of players. With 6 players, you use all of them. You stack them at the beginning of the game in a stack from highest to lowest. And then there will be a bidding phase in which you assign these cards. Then most things in the game will happen from first priority to 6, with one exception in which you go in reverse order. Usually going first is good, but precisely because of that it is expensive. Each player starts with a number of coins in their personal bank, and during the bidding phase, when it is your turn, you can choose if you want to take the priority card, which is available there. Now I'm gonna go 6 in most phases for the rest of the turn because I just acquired this one. Or if you don't want to get it and you want to pass, you place $1 there. Then goes to the next player. You're like, I don't want to go 6. I'll place $1 there. Next player, go place $1 too. As you probably have imagined, when you're taking the priority, if there is money there, you take the money. So passing is expensive. That is pretty much waiting for the better cards in the order is expensive, and going last or going later in the turn, taking a high priority. Well, I guess it's a high number means low priority. Taking a not so good priority card at least may bring you some cash. And now we go to the next one. This player acquired this card, maybe getting some money, maybe not. The next player doesn't want that one. The next player says fine, $1, going 50, it's okay. And so on and so forth. Then you continue like this until all priority cards have been assigned. And now we know the order in which most things will happen in the turn. Now, starting with player that has priority number 1, these cards are assigned. The player with the priority number 1 takes these cards, looks at them, and selects one, and then passes this to the player with the card number 2, who also selects one. And we continue like this until we have assigned these characters to each player. Next, it's time to assign the buildings. The buildings, however, are not given like this to players. Next, the players, again, in order, they'll get a chance to buy a building, to buy exactly one building. So, for example, I decide to spend 9, which is pretty expensive, and I buy this one, but I'm player number 1, I can afford it, so I'm gonna do it. So what? That's the way I roll, and I'm player number 1. Then player number 2 gets a chance to buy a building, player number 3, and so on and so forth, until all players have had a chance of acquiring a building, and possibly they have bought one. You really need to buy a building if you can. Remember, there's only one building per round. You have 4 rounds, so if you're missing one, you're missing pretty much 25% of all the buildings that you'll be able to ever get in the game. Now, it is time when players most likely have acquired a building. It's time to populate the building with the colonists, with the people that you acquired that turn, or possible that you acquired in earlier turns and you couldn't place them yet. Basically, what happens here is that in reverse turn order, this time we start from card number 6 and we go up. In reverse turn order, players have a chance to activate their buildings by attaching a card that they own to that building. For example, I took this card this turn, I also bought this building, and I connect them there. Click, that is awesome, that is excellent. And now that is activated and it gives me that reward. Again, I can choose victory points or coins. Another interesting idea is that after I activate a card, a building through a card, all of the other members of the same clan that I own activate too. So look at that, I also own these 2 people and I activate both. So now I decide my rewards. I decide that this one activating will give me 2 victory points and this one activating will give me $5. Non-active players, that is the player that are not taking their turn, that are not performing the action of attaching characters, also get to activate characters of the same clan, but only one. So the active player gets to activate all of the characters of the same clan. Other players get to activate one. So, for example, if this is my situation, then I made a mistake because I cannot attach that card here. The card that we had is good enough. If this is my situation, I own this building, and it's your active turn, do this, you activate this one and all of the other Haslip clans that you have, and I get to activate one of them. And if this is the situation and you activate a Haslip and I have all of these, I can choose which of these 3 to activate. So the active player, when attaching, activates all that they have of that color, the other players 1 per clan, which is a neat idea. So that is how players collect the coins, and collect buildings and collect victory points. So speaking of collecting coins, another way is if you cannot buy a building, you can collect $5 instead, which is not that great, but hey, life could be worse than that. So this is the general idea. Once this is done, you start the next turn and you continue like this for 4 turns. So basically, just to summarize, since each turn has several phases, but they feel more organically once you play them. Probably they feel as I'm enumerating them here. You start with an auction to decide priority. Then in priority order, players choose characters and get a chance to purchase building. Then in reverse order, they get a chance to attach and activate their characters. Even when it's not your turn, you may still be able to get some earnings if the active players activate some characters of a kind that you have in a building ready to go. Buildings that have 2 symbols only give you earnings when they are full. That is important. And that's it. Then you reset and you continue like this for 4 turns. At the end of the game, each 10 coins that you own, each $10 is worth a victory point. You add that to all the victory points that you earned during the game by collecting victory points, and at that point the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. Capital City, I read the rulebook and I wasn't sure about this one. With a turn divided in so many phrases, I was afraid things were gonna feel fiddly and complicated. I played it with a mix of hardcore gamers and casual gamers, and I was a little bit worried about the casual gamers that we go to phase 3 of the turn. We don't remember, or they don't remember what happened before or what the next one is going to be. No problem at all, actually. Once we actually started playing the game, the various phases clicked in very well. Because the bidding, it's unusual. It's an unusual mechanical bidding that way. Pretty much you're bidding not to get something, but to avoid something. So it's a little counterintuitive for people that haven't seen many variants of the bidding mechanic. But then once you get it, it's interesting. It makes sense, and it's interesting because it also gives you some interesting decisions. Well, maybe I don't really want to go 5th, but that is one big jackpot, and I'm probably gonna not be able to buy anything anyways unless I get the big jackpot. Or you're waiting for the next time around the table where the jackpot will be even bigger, but then the player right before you decides to take it, and now you're stuck there with, 4, say 4 instead of 5 with a lot of coins, 4, which is not that great, and no coins on it. So there is a little bit of a push of luck. It's luck there in a certain sense because you cannot control it, you don't know what the other players are doing. Maybe you get a sense, but it feels like it's push of luck. But again, not blind luck that I'm just sitting back and I'm taking it and taking whatever destiny throws at me, but you're making a choice in choosing how much you want to risk, and that is fun, So an interesting original variant on the bidding mechanic. And from there, the other phases felt also pretty intuitive because drafting cards, then it's just very simple. I choose a card and we go around the table. Buying buildings, that also very simple and intuitive. As for activating, sometimes I don't know if it's maybe the phrasing of the rule book or how I explain it to other people, that seemed to be confusing for some players at the beginning. So you activate this thing, and so which of my guys exactly activate? All of them? One of them? What do you mean by activating exactly? The idea that you activate something only when you attach it to a building or somebody else attaches their characters to a building. Once your characters are attached to your building, technically you're dead. You cannot do much with that character themselves. You can only get other characters to do something with them. So that felt a little strange and counterintuitive. But actually that for like 2 seconds there, it wasn't that much of a problem at all. And as we played it, then a couple of interesting things emerged about the timing, of course. Early on in the game, you want to go first or early on because you don't have buildings, and chances are that what is left to you, chances that you'll get a building and the character that will go with the building are pretty low, so that's not particularly good. However, if you look at the characters that are available, especially if you look at the buildings that are available, in later turns you have some characters and you see what is available, like maybe I can go a little later in the turn because I won't get maybe a new character, but the characters that I have, most likely I'll be able to match them with some of the buildings. So there are choices and decisions to be made there. But again, the timing is interesting because if you, during the attaching phase, if you go early there, that means that you went late before, so maybe you're not in that great of a position. But by going first, now you have a character that has been attached, which can activate as the players go. So basically, the player that went first to choose a building and to choose a character will get to attach their character last. That means that that turn, that character will only activate the time that they attach it. Doesn't get to be activated by other people. So there's a little bit of a catch-up mechanic there, as you went last, but if you are able to do something, then other players, as they're doing their things, are giving you stuff. So there is that element there. It's also always interesting to look at what people have and try to figure out how to kind of like, I don't say hijack, but freeload / piggyback what they're doing so that they will activate your characters a lot. Interesting decisions there. You may specialize in one clan, so once you activate, it's like a nuke because all of your characters activate and they give you a ton of stuff, but then you are not getting anything from other players. As opposed to diversifying, whenever somebody else does something, one of my characters will activate. That is good too. Choosing when you want money and when you want victory points and finding a balance there, that's another interesting decision. So you have all of these little elements that really come out a little by little. You see the subtleties as you go. I would say the first time you play it is fine, and it's a good game. But the second time it gets much better, and the more you play, the more you will see these subtleties. It's a game that really grows on me, and not from like, well, I didn't like it, but then it's growing on me. I liked it the first time, and it grows on me increasingly. If there is something that I must say could be not a negative, but it's something to be taken into account of, and everybody will like that, is that it is pretty unforgiving. You only have 4 turns, you can get up to 4 buildings. It's a very stingy game in terms of the resources that you can get. And so making a mistake can be really hard. It can be hard to get back. As everybody else has that building, they activate 4 times in a turn. You don't have that building, so it activates 0. From 4 to 0, so it can be a pretty big gap. You make 2 mistakes in the game, you're probably not gonna win. You're probably out of the race. On the plus side, the game really lasts just right. Just, I think, the perfect amount of time for what it is. It is more than a filler, less than one of the main courses in a game night. It has enough rounds to create an arc, to create a progression. And again, if you realize that you've been kicked out of the race because you messed up the first 2 rounds, there are only 2 more to go. So it's not like you're sitting there for the rest of the game completely bored and that will last forever. But again, that I would say is an extreme case. Making a mistake will put you in a bad position. Will put you in a bad position, but probably not one that is going to be without any hope. So there's that unforgiving element there. It's a design that you need to take seriously, and every decision matters, which of course is also a good thing if you are a committed player and you like the kind of challenge. So Capital City, it's not a heavy game, but I would say it's heavier. There's more meat than you would imagine by looking at this small, cute box with anthropomorphic animals. It's a smart game with a smart combination of mechanics. It lasts just right. It gives me the level of challenge and things to think about just right, just what I want when I'm playing a game, again, with a mix of hardcore and casual gamers, a game that is not light and thoughtless like a filler, not so meaty and heavy that then I have a headache after I play it. It's sort of like middle of the road. It sets a fast place in a way that is more intuitive than you would think at the beginning. In general, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with Capital City. I find it to be a very enjoyable game.